All right, the Reds, it's People's it's Christos Nicolau with me, and it is the Spion Kop. We're back, and we're back to talk about Arne Slot and his tactics and what comes next. One of the biggest questions this season has been, what is Arne Slot football? It was very much the same last season when we won the league. There was some tactical tweaks, but we didn't know exactly. There wasn't a monumental change. There has been a monumental change in Liverpool's results and Liverpool's running stats and Liverpool's walking stats. And just the idea that the spectacle isn't really a spectacle and it's not really worth watching a lot of the time. Well, that's what you certainly feel like, isn't it, Christos? But what I want to know is what happens next, and what does Arne Slot need next season for his tactics to work and for his tactics not to be boring and for Liverpool fans to be excited. And that's exactly what this show's all about, Christos. What we intend to do now is to come up with some of the answers, some of the players, or certainly the type of player that Liverpool needs for Arne Slot to make sure he imposes his style of football on Liverpool Football Club. And that's where we'll start, Christos, because when we're looking at it, we're systematically going to go through from the goalkeeper right through to the centre forward to see if these Liverpool players have got what it takes to be able to play Arne Slot football, and who he needs. Basically, we know that there's some departures like Mohamed Salah and Andy Robertson, so we're going to look at the players that we think are going to be there from next season. One of the biggest ones is going to be Alisson Becker. There's a big question mark over there right now. I think this one's a quite easy one, isn't it? Because good football, top clubs always need a ball-playing goalkeeper. That's right, isn't it?
No, absolutely. You need a ball-playing goalkeeper, because at the end of the day, it's an 11th player, and it'd be silly not to utilise him and just rely on long balls. He's someone that can help you get out of sticky situations, and when you need to, you just pass it back to him, and you've got confidence that you can use that ball correctly.
I think it's important what you just said there as well, because you're talking about just relying on long balls, but if you're setting up as a long ball team, then maybe you can rely on the long balls. But if we're playing intricate football, we're playing good attacking football, normally your players are a bit smaller and they're a bit more technical. You can't just lump it up the field. We're not Bolton. Do you know what I mean? Under Sam Allardyce, it's Liverpool. We're not set up that way. Mamardashvili, there's a real problem of how he's unable to play out from the back. So stylistically, there's a big problem there. So I think we can agree right now, if Alisson stays, the goalkeeper's boxed off. But if he doesn't, Mamardashvili is a problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive problem. And I think apart from not being the ball-playing goalkeeper, I don't think he's convinced in all departments, really. I don't think he's instilled confidence in that back line. And I think we need to start really thinking about what we're going to do looking forward. We're either going to tie Alisson down, or we're going to have to really look at potential realistic options to bring in the football club.
I think it's fundamental that happens, because for me, I'm just really unsure about it. But Arne Slot is trying to play a 4-2-3-1, and he has done all season. It's what he done at Feyenoord. So the four at the back have specific roles under Arne Slot. Both fullbacks obviously like to go forward, but it's a bit of a misconception to think that that's all their role is. Both of them become inverted, not completely like Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool, or the way Arteta's done it previously, or Guardiola has famously done it with different various footballs like Cancelo or John Stones or players like that. It's a little bit sort of a hybrid role, but they do tuck in centrally, and that is to create a central overload. With that in mind, how do you view both fullbacks in this Liverpool side? Because we've obviously signed Jeremy Frimpong, and we've signed Kerkez to go left back.
Yeah, I think when I look back at what the Feyenoord did under Slot, one of the things that he always relied on is, in terms of the setup, he'd want players who could progress the ball forward, and sometimes that diagonal ball, and have that range of passing. And I think we had that last season with Van Dijk and Trent. And since losing Trent, we've lost that creativity from the right-hand side. And the injuries have not really helped in terms of changing right back every sort of couple of weeks, trying different systems, different tactics. But the one thing I'd really rely on is you need someone that can get the ball out the defensive line, because it's all right playing passes along the back, but you need someone who can find that penetrative ball and get around or through the midfield.
I think it's understated how much we've missed Trent Alexander-Arnold. That is something I've spoke about quite often throughout the season. I think it's put more pressure on Ibrahim Konate as well. I think there was one example away to Manchester City. I mean, there's more than one example, by the way, but there was one example where Guardiola set the team up, just allowed Konate to have the ball. He blocked the passing lanes, and he was coming out like a rabbit in the headlights. He was really, really struggling. Just to stick on the fullbacks for a moment, at Feyenoord, Arne Slot had Gertrude at right back, who was a bit more of an all-round defensive unit. If you were going to compare directly with Jeremy Frimpong doesn't offer that defensive solidity. He doesn't offer the ball playing out from the right back. He's more of a runner. He does offer the attacking elements where he can arrive in dangerous situations when there is an overload further forward. With that in mind, do you think stylistically he is the correct player? Do you think it will work with Arne Slot? Do you think Conor Bradley was actually the main guy? I also think Conor Bradley was very young. He was always susceptible to injuries. And he's also inconsistent. So do you think they got that one right anyway?
I think in terms of if he's the right player, I think for him to be the right player, there needs to be the right support around him. I think it can work. So a lot of the things that I've noticed with the Feyenoord team is that with the right back or left back, they would a lot of the times make overlapping runs, and you'd have a overload in the midfield or the attacking third, and they'd provide the width. Now, if you're going to do that, you need to either have a more sitting left back who's going to cover that space and almost join the centre backs when needed, or one of the centre backs are going to need to be more creative. And I don't think Konate provides that enough.
No, I'll come on to Konate, but if you just stick on the fullback, so I think you're probably right. But with Kerkez then, I think stylistically, I was expecting this overlapping fullback, this flying down the wing fullback. As soon as he's come to Liverpool, he's definitely more inverted, he's more constrained going forward. But he is actually showing more promise to be tactically more suited to the system. So personally, hands on the table, like type of thing, I'm not excited by him. I'm not sure he's the greatest signing Liverpool have made. However, if I was thinking about Arne Slot football next season, I think he probably works. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think Kerkez he's got a lot of good attributes, hasn't he? He's definitely got the desire. He's got the pace. He's got the tenacity. And
he's got that aggression.
Yeah. I love his character. He does love playing for the football club, and you can see he really wants to do well. Sometimes maybe he wants it too much, where he's overcommitting to tackles. But I can't stop thinking that maybe what he's doing is what Arne Slot is asking him to do, and almost not unleashing him fully in terms of he doesn't want too many risks. Arne Slot.
That's what I believe. So the more and more you look into Arne Slot football, and the more and more you understand what he's trying to get, the more and more you go, well, actually, Kerkez is doing his job. It's not really what I wanted to see. I wanted to see flying fullbacks and a bit like under Jurgen Klopp, where they're a bit more wide and a bit more attacking, a bit more fundamental to the team. But they are still fundamental to how the system works. And they do, we will speak later about this, but they do need to arrive later. That's why I spoke a little bit about Jeremy Frimpong before. But another Jeremy that might be coming into the Liverpool side as a starter, he's certainly signed for Liverpool, is Jeremy Jacquet. And he is a footballing centre-half who can play those passes and be a bit more creative, like you've said. Liverpool last season, when they won the league, didn't need Konate to do that as much because they had an exceptional generational talent in Trent Alexander-Arnold. But it has been noticeable that Konate can't progress the ball. With that in mind, his contract's running out. There is being rumours that he is going to re-sign. I'm not convinced he is, now that we're getting to this late stage. I've seen it before with Trent. I've seen it before with Sadio Mane. I remember there was a moment where Mane was saying, well, wait until the end, and the next minute he was just gone. I was like, see ya. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably going to go, but do you think that's the right decision if you think about how Slot wants to play football?
I don't think it's the right decision to let him go right now until there's some sort of certainty of what we're going to be doing. We've also got Leone coming back from an injury, and we don't really know what that looks like. Jeremy Jacquet has just gone through an injury of his own. We don't know when he'll be ready.
He'll be ready in the summer, but he is young.
Yeah, he is young, and he has got that inexperience. I'm not quite comfortable letting Konate go. Saying that, though, he might be something that is blocking the pathway for another potential centre-back to come in. Or maybe the minutes for Jackie or Leone to sort of develop as a centre-back and show us their capabilities. But I would keep him around if I had that option. If you're going to do that, though, you'd have to imagine that maybe Joe Gomez would be the one to exit the door first.
I think if you're going to keep Konate, he starts. I think that's the problem. So, and I don't think you sign, although he is young, Jeremy Jacquet, I don't think you sign him. I think it's 55 million, 5 million add-ons. I don't think you sign a footballer for around about £60 million and then not play him. So, although he's young, he's 20, I do expect him to come in. I'm starting to think now, although he's young, and this is the issue, and people are like, oh, you can't put a 20-year-old in and it sends it off and stuff, but if the system's broken, and whether you agree Arne Slot should be the manager next season or he shouldn't be the manager, is besides the point, because if he is the manager, then you need to make sure that his system works. And with Konate, I don't think it does work. I think that's what the issue is. But in midfield is another major issue. Arne Slot likes to play the 4-2-3-1, as I just mentioned, and then that too is a double pivot. He's been playing Ryan Gravenberch and he's been playing Alexis McAllister. McAllister's notably struggled this season, and one of the obvious things, I mean, we don't need to look at any tactics board or anything like that, is the spacing in the Liverpool midfield is too big. It's what Arne Slot likes to do is he has a central overload, and that's all well and good when it works, but soon as Liverpool lose the ball and haven't got technically gifted footballers to make sure that they're keeping hold of the ball first of all, but then when they lose it, there isn't a natural person who senses danger. There's way too much space, and that's why Liverpool are conceding goals.
No, absolutely. I think it's been very noticeable, the drop-off of McAllister, and I think his capabilities have, in a way, been exposed this season due to the defensive difficulties Liverpool have had. And I can't help but feel that Liverpool won't go forward with McAllister, but will go forward with Gravenberch only because of the contract situation where they've renewed Gravenberch. They've obviously committed to concede them in the future of the Liverpool Football Club. But there's no talk about McAllister, and that can only mean they're looking at someone else, possibly someone like Adam Wharton, someone maybe more progressive, more energetic, younger, that can cover a lot more space, is more aware of the position.
Dom Szoboszlai, do you think he could play in that double pivot? Do you think he can do a job? Do you think long term he could be one of those players?
Absolutely. I think about Dominic Szoboszlai, he's brilliant, isn't he? And I think when we first signed him, one of the things we were always saying, he's got the energy, he's putting the running on, everyone was saying how energetic he was and how he covered space, how he was contributing to the defence. But one of the things that we did have a sort of problem with was his creativity, and we wanted more outlet from him. Now, we've given him that freedom at some point of the season, and it's really worked for us. Now, if we bring him back, it could work, but would he be happy with that?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's a natural fit there myself, but I've seen him a couple of times go back there, and I do think he possibly do a job. I think he might have to do a job there if he stays. Because what I'm going to come on to now is that Liverpool need high energy. Dominic Szoboszlai is high energy. Alexis McAllister isn't. He's not a bad footballer. We've seen him be integral to Liverpool winning the league. We've seen him play really, really well under Jurgen Klopp. He's someone that you didn't think that would be leaving the football club. But most recently, Arne Slot's come out and said that he might have to sell to buy. And when you look at this Liverpool side, there's a lot of footballers leaving on free. So you got Mohamed Salah leaving on a free. You got Andy Roberts leaving on the free. I think if Alisson Becker left, it wouldn't be a free, but it wouldn't be an exceptional fee. It only leaves you with so many footballers. And I'm going to throw one at you now, Christos, because if you've got Ryan Gravenberch, who's renewed, and you potentially bring Adam Wharton in, and we'll speak about him separately in a moment, you've brought Florian Wirtz, who's going to play that number 10 position, because you don't sign someone for 116 million and then, bomb him out the team. The whole system is built around how Florian Wirtz will play. You got McAllister or Szoboszlai. The obvious one is McAllister, but could Liverpool cash in on Dominic Szoboszlai?
I think that's definitely a possibility. I don't think they would do that. I think he's been if not one of the most influential players and our better players this season. I think he's proven to Liverpool how good he is, and I think Liverpool should be thinking now to tie him down. And at the end of the day, he's a superstar. He can do a lot of things in this Liverpool team, and it'd be a massive shame to see him go. What I would want to think about is, can we find different sort of players to accumulate a bit of money? So you've got the likes of, I don't know, Harvey Elliott coming back. You could possibly get 30 million, 40 million out of him. I know he's not had the best season.
I think it'd be reduced that now, because you agreed the fee with Villa. I think you got 35, didn't you, last time? So I think it would definitely be reduced. He's not played for a whole year.
Yeah.
So that would be around about 20 million. But that's subjective, isn't it? You don't really know until it happens.
Then you've got other types of players. McAllister, he could bring some good revenue, maybe 30 million, 40 million in terms of how much you could get off him. Endo, maybe 5, 10 million, if you can get any money out of him. And then you got to be really creative with the players that you're selling, and you can't be selling two big players for the team, because then replacing them is a different situation. And I don't think Liverpool will spend that type of money.
Liverpool's midfield has to be a natural number 6. I don't think Ryan Gravenberch's a natural number 6. I do not think he senses danger. I think he reacts and responds to danger. So I see him more as the other number 8, the one that carries the ball, progresses the ball, has that lovely half turn, and he's an exceptional footballer when he gets going like that. And I actually think he's been wasted as number 6 anyway. So that means that you would need to bring in someone like an Adam Wharton. What do you think Adam Wharton would bring to this Liverpool side?
I think when I watch Adam Wharton, particularly, I was watching him especially in the first half, during the weekend, and one of the things that popped out for me is he's always forward thinking. He's always looking for that pass forward to progress the ball forward. He looks very intelligent. He doesn't look like a Brazilian player where he's silky. He's a no-nonsense player. He gets the ball, he gets it forward, he knows what he's going to do with it. Sometimes it's one-touch football, which I love about him, because he doesn't need to take a touch. He doesn't need to turn his body. He already knows what he's going to do. And what that could potentially do is help the defence get out of sticky situations, help us progress the ball quicker, and then ultimately get into more attacking positions.
I think I said to you last week, one of the biggest problems was with Arne Slot's transfer window last summer wasn't actually who he did sign. It was actually who he didn't sign. And if you rewind 2 years ago, Liverpool changed the transfer stance of going for a number 6 like a Caicedo, and they tried to sign Zubimendi. And stylistically, how Zubimendi plays football and is that deep line playmaker is very similar to Adam Wharton. And I think that's what would get a player like Florian Wirtz playing, someone like Mohamed Salah. Obviously, he won't be here. All of those footballers in that attacking third, being able to get them on the ball in the half space. Arne Slot, how he plays in that final third is attacking those half spaces, players receiving the ball, making sure they're high up as possible. I think I read a stat that they are much higher than how Jurgen Klopp was playing football. So when you think about Firmino, Mane and Salah, they were arriving there, but Arne Slot likes to play further forward. With that in mind then, so you've got Ryan Gravenberch, you've got Adam Wharton as your double pivot, possibly Szoboszlai interchanging if we're not going to sell him like you've just said. You've got Florian Wirtz, number 10. Why doesn't Curtis Jones fit into this, and why hasn't he played much football this season?
I just think he's not the type of player Liverpool needs right now. I think he can go and do a job in another a lower Premier League team. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's capable of providing what Liverpool needs right now in terms of progressing the ball and being creative more than we need sometimes, because I think sometimes he takes too long on the ball. There's a lot of sideways passing. Sometimes the risks he takes. He lost the ball when Crystal Palace nearly scored on the weekend, and there's a lot of things about him that scream immaturity. He can keep the ball, but when he doesn't, he gets us in trouble, and that's not really what you want in a midfield. What I would possibly look at is with Florian Wirtz, I'm not convinced at all, and I can't stop thinking about when we signed Nunes, but it was about 80 million or something, wasn't it? It's a big money signing. And everyone thought, yeah, he's going to start for Liverpool, that's it. It's done and dusted. But he wasn't good enough. and eventually he got benched, and eventually he got shifted.
I think the big difference between Darwin Núñez and a signing like Florian Wirtz is Florian Wirtz has clearly got a footballer brain, and we're looking at the foundation around them, and we'll conclude at the end of this show, and we'll see how much is missing. And I think Florian Wirtz is a player that should have been signed after some of the other jigsaw pieces. I think that's the fundamental reason. I want to go back to Curtis Jones a second, because you said about him being over-creative. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about Curtis Jones, is that aesthetically, he looks very pleasing. He's a player with a fantastic touch. He's a player that retains possession, he's one of the players that keeps hold of the ball a lot, but a lot of them are sideways passes. A lot of them are backwards. Sometimes they obviously are forward. I don't think he is creative. I don't think he does enough. I think.
Oh no, so he's not creative enough.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But I agree with you. Then I don't think he's creative enough. I actually think he's a final third player without pace. So I think if he played in the front three like he did in the academy when I used to watch him, that's why he's a bit immature, because I think he wants to cut inside and have a shot and so on. But I don't think he's a midfielder. And I think people look at him and go, oh, look at him though, look at his touch, look at this. It doesn't matter. You said before about Adam Wharton, no frills, bang, get it out, straight away. Midfielders, the best thing about midfielders is the speed of foot. And I don't think Curtis Jones has got it. I think that's why he doesn't set up on that. And the one saving grace that anyone has, and I think Dominic Szoboszlai gets away with some of the mistakes he makes, is having legs. Dominic Szoboszlai has legs, so he gets around everywhere, he provides the high energy. Curtis Jones doesn't. Florian Wirtz, if he is going to succeed, Christos, in this Liverpool side, does need to have bodies around him, and he needs to have runners beyond them. He does need to have someone like an Adam Wharton behind him to make sure that pass comes in quicker, because every time someone delays in the Premier League, it's the quickest league in the world. Players regroup, they overcrowd you, and then when a lot of time Florian Wirtz is receiving the ball this season, more often than not, he hasn't got any players around him to be running in behind. Liverpool will leave Florian Wirtz. There's no point in talking about him, because I think it's self-explanatory. I think Liverpool need that number 10 in this system. Arne Slot wants that number 10 in the system. It was Stengs, wasn't it, at Feyenoord that was integral for them. But Liverpool need to be further forward. I think Wirtz has been quite deep at times, and once the system's broken, it's broken. But on that right-hand side, I'm concerned because Mohamed Salah is leaving the football club. You can tell me a name, but I want you to tell me more what Liverpool need on that right-hand side. And why is it different to how Salah plays?
Yeah, so with Salah, I think you've got a once-in-a-lifetime player, someone who is a winger, but is also a creator. He's also a goal scorer. He had pace. He had the strength to keep the ball. Sometimes people underestimated how strong he actually was because how small he was. I think in a lot of ways, he was the complete player for Liverpool, where he could do anything. What we need to do now is somehow replace his goals and his contributions for Liverpool. And I don't think you can get a like-for-like player, but you can build a team where a lot of them attributes are built around different positions. So you could possibly replace his goals with Ekitike or Isak up front. You could bring in pace to contribute in terms of how he'd break through teams, how he'd dribble past opponents. Maybe not this season, but certainly throughout his career. And assist in terms of how he creates, that could come from the midfield. Especially I'm looking at Florian Wirtz. He needs to start putting more numbers on the ball, and he definitely has got the capability to do that.
100%. But the actual winger that Liverpool are linked with is Jan Diamande, isn't it? And it's another staggering fee that we're linked with. I think something like £87 million or something like that. I just thinking about stylistically, he's different than Mohamed Salah. So Mohamed Salah is, like you just said, he's an absolute generational talent. I'm not sure if we'll get anyone as good as him ever again. I hope I'm wrong, because I've said that before. Liverpool signed another player, and long may it continue. But if Liverpool were to sign Diamande, albeit he's young, he's also different than how he plays football.
Yeah, so he's exciting. One of the facts I love about him is he made his debut against Real Madrid, which is just a mental thing to say out loud. So that just shows the potential that he's shown in the teams that he's played at. He's a player who can play on the right wing, but he can also do a job on the left wing. He's more used to playing on the right wing, but he's creative. He's got pace. He's fearless. And one of the things that keeps popping out for Diomande is he does put a shift in and he can press from the front. He's someone that can win the ball higher forward for you. And if you win the ball further forward up the pitch, you've got more goal scoring opportunities. And that's something that we've been lacking this season.
Absolutely. Arne Slot needs wingers that are good in one-on-one situations. That this season has been very notable that it hasn't been happening, whether it's been on Mohamed Salah's side on the right or Cody Gakpo, who's been cutting inside. They haven't been taking men on and being successful. And even if they have, it's very few and far between. With that in mind, because Arne Slot then needs two wingers either side to make sure you stretch the play, so then you can have that central overload at various points. You need to be able to be tricky. They need to be able to be a bit more like a winger rather than an inside forward or a complete inside forward. I spoke to you off air earlier and said that maybe that's why they didn't sign Semenyo. Maybe it's because Manchester City just decided to, who knows. But how Arne Slot's wingers need to be is that they start wide and arrive inside. And I think that is a little bit different to how what we're used to over the last 10 years, where we've had two inside forwards where it was about scoring goals a lot of the time. I'm not saying that they were never wide, by the way, but I think that there would be more emphasis and more onus on provide them width in this Liverpool side.
Yeah, and I think it indicates a lot about the signing of Alexander Isak, a sort of target player who can finish them chances. So if you're going to put your money and your trust in Alexander Isak, then surely you're going to buy players who can provide that service for him. So, because a lot of the times we spoke about not getting the right service either for Isak or Vert, we need players who can provide that service in terms of wingers and midfielders who are going to work together and gel together as a system.
You can see why it hasn't gone well this season, but I don't want to touch upon too much about what hasn't gone well. It's more about what we want to see in the new season. So Yan Diomande looks like stylistically he would be the figurehead to command that right hand side.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of them players that you need to go and grab now because he's only young. I think he's 19, maybe 20, turning 20 in the summer. So he's one of them players you need to go and buy him now before a big club snatches that opportunity or before his price rises to 150 million and you're just unable to buy him then. Yeah, he is that type of player, but he's also a creative player who can get the ball and beat some men, because sometimes we lack that creativity, especially when teams are in a low block. We just need someone to beat a couple of players and create some space.
I said earlier on about the fullbacks are crucial to the wingers as well. So the wingers will provide that width, and that's where Arne Slot's fullbacks come alive in that final third. And that's where Frimpong can really, really be successful in those areas, because if you had a Yan Diomande on the right-hand side stretching the play at times, that's where Frimpong will arrive in the inside channel, coming into the penalty area. And we've seen that happen a few times this season. When you think about it, there has been moments where Frimpong has arrived late there, and then they can penetrate and provide a goal-scoring threat. So that's crucial. I think Frimpong can definitely do that. I think Kerkez can do that, although I'd like to see Kerkez do a little bit more. But that left-hand side remains a problem. Cody Gakpo, I think, is being a really good footballer for Liverpool. I think he still is a good footballer. I think he's one of the 5 forwards that you want to have, and he's one of those players that comes off the bench and sometimes starts in League Cup games or a home game when you should win, but he's not your left-hand starter. He just can't be. Rio Ngomoa has shown flashes of brilliance, and some people will say he's too young, and he probably is to start every game. That's clear. But when I've tried to understand Arne Slot's football a little bit more, Rio Ngomoa seems to be a bit more like a front-free player and not the same as Yan Diomande. Do you want to explain why?
Yeah, I think with Rio Ngomoa, he relies a lot on supporting runs, and he will try and take a player on and have a shot, but I don't think he's got the physical capacity as a Diomande. I don't think his pace is as much as Diomande, and I think his style of play relies a lot on what the system does. In terms of left wingers, I'm thinking a lot, if we don't buy anyone next season, Peter, I can't shake the feeling that Ekitike could be our left winger.
I was going to bring that up to you because I'm thinking, there's a lot of players that need to fit into this forward line as well, because I think Isak's going to be the guy who starts as the number 9.
Yeah, I think if you look at Ekitike, he's very, I might get slated for this, but he's very Thierry Henry in the way he runs. He's quick, he's creative, he's strong, he's cheeky. And I think he can do that job. I think he's only played 112 minutes with Alexander Isak this season, which that means they've just not tried it at all or not correctly. I think if you think about Ekitike, a lot of the times he is on that left wing and he's trying to cut inside. He's not that type of player like Isak.
He's played there for France as well.
Yeah, he's not that type of player who's going to just stay in the middle and wait for it. He's always drifting on the left, always drifting on the right. So he could be someone that could just give us an option out of nowhere.
Just to address something, you do believe Rio can become that player, don't you? Because he is only young. I think the system, he needs to understand it a little bit more. That's
yeah, he definitely needs to understand it more. And he's very young, he's very raw, isn't he? And I think maybe that's one of the things Arne Slot has looked at this season and potentially not utilise them as much. His pressing, not the best either. He hasn't got the physical capability to do that, or the timing of the press, which is another thing. If we're going to press from the front and we're saying we're a pressing aggressive team, you can't have too many players who are not doing that.
Totally agree. Moving forward, if you want to go and win the Premier League and you want to go and compete in the Champions League, then you can't be relying on a 17 or 18-year-old who's still learning the game and managing the system. I do think he needs to play more football games, and I still think he should have played more this season because Liverpool have been really poor, but that's besides the point of what we're talking about going forward. I want to talk about Alexander Isak now, because a lot of people have criticised Alexander Isak, saying that he's not really a Liverpool forward. He doesn't press like what we're used to. He's certainly not a Bobby Firmino. And how he presses and his work rate doesn't seem to be there. He sort of looks like one of those footballers that looks more guilty than he is, if you know what I mean. I think he gets a little bit unfair treatments. Like I've brought this example up before. So Dimitar Berbatov was a fantastic footballer, but he wasn't a player that worked extremely hard, pressing everywhere. He was that type of footballer. Slot's system demands a penalty box centre forward, someone that pins them back. I said to you before that Slot's team are higher than Klopp's team. I think were the highest team in Dutch football at the time when when Slot was the Feyenoord manager, and it was significantly higher than how Klopp was playing. So what they do is they pin the opposition. The idea is, we haven't pinned anyone this season, but the idea is they pin the opposition, which means then someone like Isak is closer to goal. So you don't need an Ekitike in that sense, because Ekitike is someone, I would say again, who arrives, is a runner, where Isak's a bit more back to goal. And that's exactly what I think the plan is and the idea with him.
Yeah, he's definitely an excellent finisher. And when I think about Alexander Isak, he is that type of player where he is going to be in the box, and the players around him need to realise what type of passes he needs and what types of runs he makes and what types of spaces he's going to be in to give them the right type of service, really. So I'm looking at types of player like Frimpong, Kerkez, all these overlapping, underlapping fullbacks need to know where Alexander Isak is. But at the same time, Isak can also, when I think about him in his Newcastle playing days, he can also drop down a little bit as well, because he's great with his back to goal. So he can drop back, receive the ball, and then he's got runners on the left and right. He can shift the ball there, and then he's making them great runs forward because he knows exactly what space to attack and how to finish it.
Absolutely bang on. He was phenomenal at Newcastle. I was so excited to sign him, and I'm still excited to watch him play. He does run on the channels as well, which is very much an Arne Slot centre forward. I think crucially here is that some critics are going to come back and say, well, is he going to press like we need him to press? But it's important to note that there's a quartet of footballers in that final third that do that job. So you have Isak, you're going to have a Florian Wirtz behind them, and then you're going to have your right forward, which could be Diamande, and you're going to have your left forward, potentially Ekitike, potentially Rio Ngamoa, potentially Cody Gakpo, potentially someone that you might sign that we don't even know about yet. But there is a lot of footballers to bring in here, because we're looking at a new centre-half, we're looking at a new number 6, I'd say. So a new centre half, a new number 6, definitely the right forward or a right winger. That's 3. And then you're looking at potentially a left winger as well. So that is around about 40% of the outfield team. If you was to replace the goalkeeper, that's another footballer you're bringing in. Can it be done? And what do you expect now coming into the summer? What you expect in August when we kick off again with Arne Slot? Is this the moment now that you say, no, you've got to sign these footballers, you've got to make sure they come in and make sure that Slot's got everything he needs?
Do I think it can be done? Yes. Do I think it will be done? Probably not. Why do I think that? I think the system reminds me a lot of, in a way, Pep Guardiola, where he's got this perfect idea of football, but to create that perfect idea of football and apply that perfect idea of football, he needs to spend a lot of money. And when he gets it wrong, he just spends more money and more money and more money to get the best in every position. And I don't think Liverpool are capable to compete in terms of the spending power as other sort of financial superpowers in Europe. I don't think we can sustain just keep buying the best players. So I just can't see it working. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I think there's a lot of moving pieces that need to be moved. And I think we're going to need a lot of luck in terms of who we buy. It needs to work, and it needs to work now.
So I tend to agree as well, because I think if Liverpool make a mistake in the transfer market, so Alexander Isak breaks his leg, you're not bringing in another forward. Liverpool have been short of a forward all season. They didn't go into the transfer market in January and say, come on, well, let's go and sign the player that we possibly need. That's what concerns me. You're right about Guardiola. I remember he first came and he signed fullbacks for 50, 60, 70 million. You were like, Jesus Christ, what was that about? So all of that, you've sort of answered my next question, really. But do you think if he did get all these parts and he was lucky with injuries and so on, do you think the Arne Slot football, firstly, would be attractive? And secondly, do you think it's could win the Premier League, essentially? Because when you look at it, it's very idealistic, doesn't it? You're like, that works, that sounds good, that's great. But when we talk about the central overloads and the staggered midfield and a lot of clusters of players in one position in the field, when something goes wrong in the Premier League, it's so quick, it's so dynamic, and it's so punishing.
Yeah, I don't think it can work. And realistically, I just can't see that working. There's too many demands in the Premier League right now. And every other team around us are getting better every season. If you think about winning the league, you're probably going to have to get up to 90, 95 points next season. And I just can't see that happening with this team. There's too many factors that need to work in a short amount of time. Now, if he sticks to it for the next 3 or 4 years and builds it progressively, maybe that's something that we could look at. But do we have the patience for that? Do the owners have the patience for that? Is that something that can actually happen?
And that's all spot on, but I'm more talking about, do you think that system anyway? So forget about like being patient. I'm just saying, do you think the system's too idealistic anyway? It worked in Dutch football.
Yeah.
He didn't win the league with this system completely because it wasn't all of his team. He made tweaks, and rightly so, fantastic. I'm just saying, in general, do you think that could actually work?
No, I don't think it can work at all.
Well, we've gone through it. We've seen what the problems are. We see what we need. Liverpool do need some massive transfers in the summer. Slot is going to stay as manager, so he needs to be back. There's no doubt about that. That's what the board needs to do. They've committed now to this system, and they need to see the job through. Let us know what you think. If he can achieve his goals, can Liverpool potentially challenge for the league title next season? Can we go deep in the Champions League? Let us know in the comments. We've tried our best to try and solve the Arne Slot problem. We need a lot of money. That's the end of that one, isn't it? But it has been Spion Kop, it's been People's Day, and it's been Christos Nicolau. Up the Reds.